In a disappointing but not a surprise, the supposed vanguard of the national elected left, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, joined the Pod Save Bros in order to throw her backing behind Joe Biden.
So, president's only primary opponents are Marianne Williamson and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Haven't been any rumors about anyone else even thinking about jumping in. Will you be supporting Joe Biden for reelection?
I believe, given that field, yes. I think he's done quite well, given the limitations that we have. I do think that there are ebbs and flows, as there are in any presidency. There are areas that I think were quite strong when he came right out of the gate with the American Rescue Plan. And of course, the Inflation Reduction Act was a massive step in terms of our climate agenda. But, there are also areas that I think could have gone better. We have major structural issues in this country, and I think it starts with the United States Senate. And I think that until we have senators that are willing to stand up and stare the filibuster in the eye and stare a lot of structural issues about the Senate, and the United States Senate will be what holds back this country from an enormous amount of progress.
So there's a lot to unpack in that short clip. First, AOC says, given that field of Marianne Williamson and Bobby Kennedy, she will back Biden. Apparently, AOC has bought into DC's relentless spin that only candidates officially certified as quote-unquote serious by the powers that be are worthy of any consideration. Now, I don't have to point out to you the irony of this stance, given that AOC was once a bartender and organizer thoroughly outside the circle of officially sanctioned candidates who ousted a powerful longtime incumbent to the shock and horror of the official Beltway crowd. How quickly she has gone from renegade outsider protesting in the speaker's office to cowed insider. Not long ago, she said in different countries she and Joe Biden would not even be in the same party. On the other hand, she and Marianne are probably theoretically aligned on like 90% of issues, but elite acceptability now trumps issues for AOC and the rest of the elected left. Second, she says Joe Biden has done, quote, quite well, and then offers up the also officially sanctioned villain of the moment, the Senate and the filibuster, to justify the many failings of the Biden administration. Apparently, quite well, in AOC's estimation, includes accepting a loathsome debt deal, siding with Capitol over workers in a rail strike, abandoning efforts to lift the minimum wage, strengthen unions, widen healthcare access, and a long list of other campaign promises. She also accepts at face value the notion that Biden simply must accept the intransigence of senators like Sinema and Manchin and doesn't have tools of pressure and rewards that he could use at least to try to compel compliance. But really, to look at the personal failings of AOC, it's kind of too easy. It's too obvious at this point. The writing of her fall from renegade to player in the game has been on the wall for quite some time now. And the truth of the matter is, she's really not special. The whole of the elected left has more or less fully fallen in line, scarcely raising a word of dissent, not even demanding on principle that Biden subject himself to debates. But it's not just the elected left. The whole project of leftism focused on a national level seems to have receded. Post-Bernie, the left, which had organized, found community, and created its own media in online spaces, really fractured. There was no clear big goal to keep everyone aligned. People were depressed. They were angry by the way the Bernie campaign ended, understandably so. And once Bernie's campaign was over, the movement he started no longer had a real-world incarnation. And a pandemic locked all of us inside in front of our screens. That made what was left of that movement way too online, and thus extremely vulnerable to the shaping of the amorphous algorithms crafted by our tech oligarchs. Those algorithms, of course, reward drama, they reward conflict, they reward call-outs and destruction. So no one should be surprised that that is exactly what came to dominate the space. Now, you might hope that people with principles would resist the dopamine fuel of clicks and fake outrage, but we are talking about fallible human beings here. From what I can tell, the whole era is pretty reminiscent of the retrenchment of the left in the 1970s, only this time supercharged with big tech poison. Founder of Jacobin magazine, Bhaskar Sankara, recently made this observation on Twitter, which speaks to the national left recession. Quote, Medicare for all has been seemingly erased as a core, immediate demand of the socialist left. Obviously, it's not viable as legislation today, but it's barely brought up as a cause. Really night and day to 3 to 4 years ago when it was at the core of Bernie's campaign. He goes on to opine that not only has Medicare for all gone largely dormant as a core demand, but there really is no core demand. Quote, I'm not sure there is a unifying national demand that compares to what it was. Lots of local activism around climate and tenants' rights and electoral activity, plus energy around labor solidarity. And you know what? That second part is actually really important because it's an antidote to the depression the lefties may naturally feel upon watching a clip of AOC with the pod save bros going all in for Joe freaking Biden. Because actually the desire for change and support for ideas like universal healthcare, housing, and unions, it's higher than ever. Its expression has just shifted in a way that may ultimately be more durable and more powerful. Bernie bet that his political revolution would bring new voters out in droves, mobilizing an electorate that typically stays home. And while, yes, he was screwed, and 2016 especially was rigged, it is also true that theory just didn't really pan out. And I think the reason it didn't pan out was at least in part because of lack of local organizations, and in particular a robust labor movement that stitches communities organized around common political interests together out of atomized individuals. And that's exactly the area where there are actually some hopeful things happening today. In cities across the country, you do have tenants' rights movements springing up to protect renters, and social housing has made a surprising legislative comeback. Unions are seeing record levels of public support as grassroots organizing pushes forward, and large established unions are also being remade with more militant and more responsive leadership. Even some regular old Democratic governors are actually doing some impressively based things. Wisconsin's Tony Evers just increased public school funding indefinitely for 400 years. Minnesota Democrats have grabbed control of the governor's mansion and the state legislature, and they are using it to do everything from making all school lunches free, hiking taxes on corporations, and aggressively bolstering union rights. If New York Congressional Representative AOC isn't going to fight for Medicare for all, you could look to New York State Senator Jabari Brisport, who is doing the work to bring universal health care to his own state as a model for the nation. There's a hell of a lot more interesting things going on than what AOC has to say about Joe Biden to some Obama bros. And Sagar, not surprising, but hey guys, if you like that video, go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber, and help us build the best independent media organization on the planet.
That's right. We're subscriber funded. We're building something new. We want to replace these failing mainstream media organizations.
So again, to subscribe, it's breakingpoints.com.